Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the March 31st, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278. No, don't think that you're on a battle or a ship and you're bouncing around. That's Devin moving the camera, so just bear with us. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Catch me on Substack. Some recent posts. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to where? Our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, short version and long version. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. And, of course, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath and our other great shows out Chicago all the weekend time. So there you go. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform, because there's lots of good stuff there. All of our folks, shout out to our all of our team here. We made it through another month. I said we made it through another month. From Devin to Henry to Lady B to Mike. You guys just do great stuff. Paul, I mean, don't want to forget anybody, but, sometimes our brains go. And, we've got such a great team here that make sure that we get through each show, each day, each week, each month, and here we are, March 31st. We did it again, so kudos to the guys and the gals here. Today's show, we will have a couple of really, really great guests. Board of Directors member Casey Coles will be with us, and Dr. McConnell will be with us as well. Both are executive directors and board members of Let It Be Us. And you'll be fascinated to hear more about them. And then State Representative Anna Moeller from the 43rd District will be with us this morning as well. So there you go, guys. Got a good show getting out of the gate this morning. Voice is a little scratchy. I apologize for that, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to send a little bit of kudos out to good friends of ours' daughter who got married this weekend. So shout out to Megan and the new hubby. So congratulations there. She was able to walk down the aisle this weekend and with her new husband Peter. So the new Herman family. So congrats. But at that wedding and at that reception, I should say more specifically, there was a lot of scream yelling or scream talking because of why, Devin? The music. We were right near the speakers. The great event, great reception, but we were right near the speakers. So there was a lot of scream talking Saturday evening, and so the voice is recovering a little bit from that. But it was good to see family and friends out having a good time. So once again, shout out to the McDermotts, shout out to the Herman family, all the rest. So good stuff there. But I want, referring back, as we're going to the weekend, but referring back to last week, we really had such a wonderful group of guests last week. Obviously, on Friday, we had our good friend and colleague Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics podcast, author and historian Michelle Duster was with us. We were, had blessings in a backpack with Dan Summons as managing director. We also had on Thursday Cliff Cash, comedian and historian and activist, all roll into one. And candidate Gabe Alamont, who's running down in Florida's first congressional district. And I'll press pause there for a second. Clearly, the Trump administration is concerned about the House because you guys, just as a recap from last week, know that they pulled a nomination of Elise Stefanik for ambassador. And, there you go, because they know that seat in New York is one of the three that we're trying hard to get. So they definitely recognize that it's a little bit too risky for them to lose that seat, because it was definitely one that they were that's more closer than they wanted to be. But we also had some great guests the earlier part of the week with Andrea Darlis, Sarah Jones, who was just awesome to talk with Sarah Senator Christina Castro, author Dante King, Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63, Representative Gonzalez, talking about where we are with gambling. We really had a wonderful group of folks that were kind enough to be with us. And it's always great to just remind folks who we had. And you can catch all of those at our heartlandsignal.com, my show page, by just clicking on my face. And, you know, you can get all the other good stuff you want to check out. So there you go. Devin, since it's Monday, let's get everybody off to a good start and head over and drop a few Q's News Views items on them. Excuse me, on this March 31st, 2025, knowledge workers feel the squeeze. As reports of a white-collar recession are mounting, the gap in earnings between college-educated and non-college-educated workers is starting to narrow, according to the New York Times. Is knowledge work in broad decline? I don't know. Once reliable fields like bookkeeping and coding are already feeling the squeeze thanks to cost-cutting and artificial intelligence, while White House cuts to university research grants and federal payrolls are further shrinking. Career pathways for degree holders is also seeing a little bit of a tip. So that's what happens when governments like ours currently are doing things to offset so many hardworking people who've put in the time in that space. So I'll keep you posted on that. Tariff threats are shaking the wine industry. The White House's proposed tariffs on European wine imports earlier this month may have yet to become a reality, but the threat alone is already wreaking havoc on the continent's wine industry. In France, where sales are already slumping, winemakers are struggling to move inventory, while major producers in Italy, which sends roughly a quarter of its wine exports to the United States, have seen American shipments freeze. U.S. restaurateurs are also bracing for the potential impact. Everything's going to get expensive, guys. And that's the problem with this crazy administration. They don't know what they're doing. They're just fighting a battle that doesn't need to be fought. It's not even a battle. It's just a little child's war. And that's what's happening. And people are already hurting and feeling it. So things are going to get expensive, unfortunately, because of these fools. A real rush for the Real ID. The May 7th deadline for the Real IDs is rapidly approaching and causing long lines at both TSA checkpoints and DMV locations, according to the Wall Street Journal. Nationwide, DMV offices have been flooded with anxious travelers scrambling to secure appointments before the deadline, while many extending hours to meet the overwhelming demand. According to many transportation officials, I should say, roughly 1 in 5 travelers flying through the United States airports lack a Real ID compliant license and other forms of ID that are required. So get on top of that, guys, because it's going to become a kind of a pain in the backside, I know, for a lot of us. Apple is prepping a new health app, AI Doc. Apple is testing a revamped health app and a new AI-powered health coach that can replicate a real doctor and provide tailor-made recommendations based on your personal data to optimize your health. According to Bloomberg, internally dubbed Health Plus, the AI agent is being trained by Apple-hired physicians and utilizes data collected from your device to track and explain health conditions and trends. The new features are on track to launch in iOS 19.4 and will place a strong emphasis on nutrition, including food tracking. One thing I have an issue with that is in terms of the interaction. I'll never trade interaction with the physician for AI, because a doctor can look at you sometimes, good doctors, and go, what's going on? But you may not have filled out in your data information. So, that's the one thing that'll never be replaced, I don't think. Gen X creatives face a mid-career rut. What does that mean? Maintaining a steady career in a creative field has rarely been easy for any age group. But the members of Gen X particularly, there are narrowing opportunities like professions in advertising, design, publishing, and entertainment come at a particularly precarious time. Entering what should be the prime of their earning periods, creators in their 40s and 50s are instead faced with stagnant wages and the contracting of the industry. And last but not least, apps want in on tax-free tips. What's that mean? U.S. lawmakers consider legislation exempting some tip wages from taxes, like tech companies, Ubers and DoorDash are pushing for the bill to apply to their drivers and delivery workers too. The most recent proposed legislation would allow employees like restaurant servers or casino workers to receive tips tax-free, but independent contractors such as rideshare drivers would not be eligible. So that could impact up to 7.3 people that work as app-based contractors. So there you are, guys. A little bit of Choose Views news to get you off to the start this week, Monday, March 31st, 2025. Coming to the end of the third month of this new year and the first in 2 months of this term of Donald Trump. I don't call him president. I try not to do that as much as I can because I'm stubborn. I'm not going to do it. My version of I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, but I'm stubborn and I won't refer to him as President Trump just because that's my choice to do. All right, guys, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. Look forward to hearing from you. Give us a call. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So, like I said, last week we had the opportunity to speak with Gay Valamont, who's running for one of the Florida seats, the 1st District. And she definitely is in a tight race, a close race, and a very, very hopeful race. So a couple of comments. I want you guys to do whatever you can in these last few hours to help out with her election down in Florida. We can get that seat if we have the turnout that she's predicting we may have. So fingers crossed for her. Do what you can in these last hours to help her in whatever way they can. Use your help at this point. The other race, and Bernie Sanders is going to kind of, put his thumb on the scale, if you want to call it that, is the race with that Josh Weil is in down in Florida. That's in Florida's 6th District. So Bernie's been down there speaking and talking and doing whatever he can. So these two special elections for the U.S. House seats in Florida are tomorrow. Each take place in districts, of course, that Trump carried by 30 or more points. So we know that they are conservative areas and they are tight fights. Shouldn't be competitive, but they are. And in both cases, Josh Weil in 6th has raised a substantial amount of money. And he has definitely got a very good chance. And it's going to be turnout to affect that. And, of course, Ms. Valamont done the same thing, raised a tremendous amount of money, and it's going to require good turnout. But they both believe, from talking with Gay last week and from what I've read from Josh, that they can get it done. So any help from us outside of the district in different states and those who are in the district, whatever we can do. But those of us, I think, that are outside of the district, what we can still try to do, I don't know if it's so much money at this point as it is effort. And that effort may be some of these last-minute phone calls, some of these last-minute text messages and such. So reach out to, and if you're not in the district, you certainly can't door knock. But reach out to these candidates. They still are looking for folks who can, at the 11th hour be helpful. Reach out to each of these candidates. Josh Weil, you can Google him, and Gay Valamont, you can Google her, and say, what can I do in the last few hours to help? And it probably would be something along the lines of phone calling and or texting, but they'll let you know what that would be. And a quote from Bernie Sanders in endorsing Josh Weil: Josh is a working class father of 2 and a middle school teacher who knows what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. Unlike his opponent, he does not have a billionaire-backed super PAC supporting him. Josh would be a voice in Congress who understands why we must protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and not give massive tax breaks to billionaires. He understands that we have to keep our promise to veterans, wants to expand the trade union movement, and believes that all kids deserve a quality education. As the longest-serving independent in Congress, I am confident that he will be a grassroots champion for Florida's working class, and I'm proud to endorse him. So that's from Bernie Sanders, who weighed in on the Florida special election in the 6th district. So, like I said, guys, anything that you can do at this point, but it'll probably be some form of calling or texting, and that you can do. Then let it rip and reach out to each of their campaign offices to see what can be done. I just feel like it's important that we don't just say, okay, it's a tough district, so not going to get involved. It may not cost you a hell of a lot to do anything other than make those phone calls, and I think it'll be a wonderful opportunity. And man, oh man, if we were to pull it off in Florida and get too closer and it just be one seat, Devin, it's a game changer. And the reason is because it gives Hakeem Jeffries and the whips on the Democratic side the ability to go to Republicans in purplish districts and say, listen, your folks are suffering. You need to vote with us. And it's a hell of a lot easier when it's just a one vote difference. To get a couple of Republicans, I should say, to vote with the Dems, particularly when it's a right issue and it's also an issue that gives. This is what's interesting. This is how I'll look at it. A lot of times, politicians take cover in certain ways because they don't want to vote in a certain way. The opportunity for some of those Republicans, even if we don't get these seats. Let me put it this way, going back to what Representative Lauren Underwood said last week, and we had that clip, and maybe we'll play it again, Devin, in the 6:30 hour if we can find that one. I think it was from last Monday, Representative Lauren Underwood. But the point she made about Republicans in certain districts where we can get them to vote, on our side because that's an issue that's going to benefit their community. That's actually giving them better cover right now. If you think about it, if you're going to have this conversation politically, here's what I mean. So, as I said a moment ago, historically, politicians have kind of gotten cover from not voting on certain things a certain way because they figured that they didn't really need to because it wasn't going to be a messaging issue and then a very practical issue with their voters. In this case, because of the carnage, and just pay attention to this, the carnage that Trump's administration is causing with the executive orders and the threat of the tariffs is causing issues for so many people in so many districts. We were talking about this last week in terms of the number of military folk, and this is what Gabe Valamont was talking about, the number of military people that are impacted by these decisions when it comes to mistreating our veterans, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Those are the four right there that impact pretty much everybody in the country because there's a base somewhere near you or someone that served, maybe 2 degrees, 3 degrees of separation, and the list goes on. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So those four legs of the stool impact virtually every community in the country. And to use a phrase and a fact that our good friend Dan Summons from Blessings in a Backpack has to say, there's no zip code in America that doesn't have a food crisis for our children. Well, there's probably no zip code. I'm going to say probably because I don't have the factual data, but I'm pretty certain based on common sense and life experience and what I learned from all the readings that I do, there's not a zip code in the country that's not impacted by one of these four. I think it's safe to say our veterans, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So how am I tying this to the elections? I'm tying it to the elections by saying that we can give cover, if you want to call it that, or Republicans who want to move in the direction of voting with the Democrats in the House, like Representative Lauren Underwood said, can actually get cover because they are doing the right thing for their communities, for their districts, by voting with us, whether we get these 2 seats or not. That's the power of this. And so were we able to find that clip?
Lauren Underwood on CBS?
Yeah. We got. Let's play that again to kind of let her speak more specifically to the point about these seats.
in the House is this. We have 215 Democrats. We need 218 people, members of Congress, to support any bill for it to pass out of the House. That's why we're saying we just need 3. So if we can find 3 House Republicans that are willing to stand with us, we are able to literally block through legislation these actions that Donald Trump is taking to slash Social Security from America's seniors. We are able to protect the Department of Education and prevent this attack on our children that Donald Trump has unleashed yesterday. We are able to literally stand in that gap. And so what we're asking families across Illinois to do is to stand with us and to reach out to Republican representatives.
Do you think it's possible, Congresswoman, I mean, with, so many members of the Republican Party very loyal to the current president, right, do you think it's even possible to get 3 Republican elected officials to actually vote with the Democrats?
Absolutely. You know how I know? Because I know that my colleagues have disabled children or children with learning disabilities who count on having that teaching aide in the classroom with them in order to stay on grade level and to be able to learn and interact with their peers. Mm-hmm. I know that my colleagues have parents who rely on Social Security. I know that my colleagues are just like every other American. And when they hear about the impact of their votes and these proposals, those colleagues will respond to the pressure. However, if we're just counting on a collegial across-the-aisle conversation, member to member, that's not necessarily what'll get it done in this moment. Yeah. But that public outreach, that public pressure is what will move these vulnerable Republicans.
And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not, Devin, I've already gotten a couple of texts that say, why are you giving Bernie oxygen? I'm not giving Bernie oxygen. I'm doing what I think we have to do, which is get behind candidates that are trying to win a race. And, calling Bernie names doesn't really get the job done. So, guys, let's stop doing that. Right now, we can't be throwing sand in each other's eyes in some of these races and any of the issues. Bernie, whether he has gotten behind, every single candidate, in this case, Gay Vallimont and Josh Weil, is frankly irrelevant to me. What's relevant is that his voice is lent to Josh Weil and to help him win that race. Let's stop doing that. This is not the time, and I'm tired of progressive liberal Democrats, always having to throw dirt first rather than reach out a hand and say, let's get something done. Like Representative Underwood just said, we need to push the Republicans who are in vulnerable districts to vote with us because you've got constituents who are being hurt by this administration. So rather than throw dirt at our own people, how about throwing some dirt and sand at the Republicans? I'm just tired of Dems doing that craziness. And to that end, and this is well, we don't have enough time for me to launch in this. I'll hit this after we come back from the break. But Florida's 1 and 6 are gettable, and that's all I'm saying. Reach out rather than criticize me for talking about Bernie, speaking well about Josh Weil. Maybe pick up the phone and call the offices or text the offices to find out if you can do some texting or some phone calling to help win those elections, rather than criticizing WCPT for giving kudos to Bernie for voicing his opinion to support Josh Weil. That doesn't make any sense. If you want to do something constructive, call the offices of those candidates and see what you can do to help them win. That's what I'm saying. Let me be perfectly clear for those in the cheap seats on that topic. Do that work rather than criticizing. It's insane. That's how we get in trouble. It's how we end up, losing important elections, because we'd rather poke fun at each other than say, yeah, you know what, let me call that office and let me get involved. So do that, guys. That's what I'm pushing you to do, encouraging you to do. Like Representative Lauren Underwood said, we can win some of these races, but we also have to recognize that if we don't, we still want to encourage and push Republicans that are in vulnerable districts to vote the right way. So there you go. Let's take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. I had a conversation this weekend with someone that we were talking about Gavin Newsom being on the Bill Maher show, I believe it was. I didn't watch it. I saw clips from it, et cetera, so I don't want to pretend like I watched the show. I did not. And I don't want to sound like I am doing what I just said don't do to Dems, which is to throw dirt. What I am saying is that what we have to be very cautious of is this conversation around Dems need to move to the center to win elections going forward. I don't agree with that at all. And I'm curious to what you guys have to think about this. The point I'm making in reference to Gavin Newsom is I was, like a lot of people, surprised, concerned, maybe disappointed, maybe even angry at not him, but that he had Kirk and Steve Bannon on his podcast. And that, for me, was, you should be reaching out to people who are already in the camp. We don't need to know what Steve Bannon, I mean, let's be honest. How much more do we need to know about what Steve Bannon has to say or that Charlie Kirk has to say? They are fire throwers. They're flamethrowers that are trying to hurt our party more than help our party. They don't want, this is what I was saying to a colleague of mine over the weekend. They're not interested in helping us. They're interested in helping themselves. So my point was, don't reach past. It's like my old lifeguard analogy. Save the people that are the closest around you. Don't go out, still swim out further to save the person that's in the deeper waters and screaming the loudest, Devin. Save those that are right here, and then they will help you to help save others. And I just felt like that's the thing that I wanted to see. I want to see all of our leaders do, is help the folks that are right around us. And I think that moving to the center is a recipe for disaster. It's rather than us, and we all have to take responsibility for this, I believe, rather than us looking at let's move to the center and try to get Republicans to like us, it's let's hold our ground right now and bring more people inside of the base and grow the base. Let's not, and growing the base isn't going to be by going after Republicans who don't like us. It's going to be about going after the people who did not show up. There's a richer pool of folks. I believe they're probably more open-minded than trying to get somebody who I think it's easier to get somebody in the game than to get somebody to change their game. That's me. I could be wrong. So let me cover that real quickly. I feel as though we are better off to take a positive approach if we go, and I've said this in different ways before, if we make sure that our message, which is a great message, and like David Jolly says, and I've said so many times, I know that our message, our ideas are better from the greater number of people. Let's make sure that message is more prevalent, more louder to the 69 plus million folks that didn't vote. That's where the fertile ground is. I'm not trying to change Charlie Kirk's mind. I'm not trying to change Bannon's mind. And to be honest with you, I don't really care what they have to say, candidly, because what they have to say, and let me cover my own bias. What they have to say, I doubt, is to benefit people that I represent, people that I believe in, people that I want to support. So I'm not trying to go get them to like me. And I'll share that this is probably gonna get some people's undies in a bundle. So I'm gonna just say it this way. There are lots of folks of different communities that try to get people of other communities to like them because of their skin color. That's just a fact. Anybody that wants to deny that, then call and tell me your life experience that counters that. That's a fact. So why are we trying to politically get people who don't like us, sure as hell don't respect us, and in a push come to shove moment would want to cause us harm, and they've said that they would? So let's spend more of our time holding our ground and making sure that we stand strong in that ground without and not turn off people that would help to grow our base. And I know that some of the things that Governor Newsom talked about were, getting away from cancel culture and being more open-minded to talk to Republicans. I get all of that. I do. I just feel that what we would be better at doing is strengthening our base by incorporating the people who feel as though they were left out of the base. That's their feeling, may not necessarily be factual, but reaching to those are probably easier to get back in the game than the people who want to harm us. That's kind of my position on this. So I would like to hear from you guys to determine or to get more information as to how you see that. I'm not pointing fingers at Gavin, and I'm not overselling on Bernie. I'm talking about how we have to make sure that we're using our messaging to reach the people who feel that are of all communities that feel as though, because I can tell you there's a lot of black folks who are like, why would Governor Newsom talk to Kirk and Bannon before they would talk to many other black leaders? And I'm sure there's folks in the Hispanic community that feel the same way. I'm sure there's a number of women leaders that felt the same way. So I'm saying we have to rechannel that. That's the point I want to make in that space, and we'll talk about it some more. So, Devin, let's grab a quick call from I think it's Mary and Carol Stream. Hey, Mary. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning. I've been listening to you all morning. How's it going?
Good. My voice is a little craggly, but working through it. How are you doing?
Just fine. Just out working. I'm a 710 Teamster truck driver. I deliver batteries to Walmart stores.
That's what I'm talking about. There's out there early.
And the highways and byways of Illinois and Indiana.
There you go. So what you got to say this morning?
Well, I did watch the Bill Maher show, and I'm a huge fan of his. And Gavin Newsom touched on a lot of points. I mean, the Democrats are going to be left behind. I mean, they went too far woke versus, I mean, they lost 13 million people didn't vote because it just they went too far left and then the MAGA went right. And then it's not so much MAGA won the election, the Democrats lost it. I mean, I think it stems from the kneeling for George Floyd right afterwards. Yes, it's tragic what happened to him, from racist police. I'm not going to go into that subject. We all know what happened. We all know why it happened. But I think all of it has to do with allowing trans men trans playing in women's sports. If you can't beat men in your own sport, you don't need to go trans into a woman to be in women's sports. I think that's where a lot of it drew the line.
Okay.
Right there. I mean, everybody has the right to do and be what they want, but you want us to accept you and everything. That's fine, but they keep taking it to a whole new level, and now you got like different branches of the Democratic Party, and none of them can come together. I'm thankful we got Bernie Sanders to reach out and Joni Mrs. Underwood.
Lauren Underwood, yeah.
I forgot her first name. I apologize.
That's okay. So let me ask you a couple quick questions, and we got some time before we hit this break. And I know that people are probably screaming at the phone right now. I'll start with a conversation real quickly on the trans community in sports. The percentile of there's a couple ways one could go on that in terms of first of all, the percentile of folks that are trans members of our society, male, female, however we want to process that. And I want to be very, very delicate here. So nobody get upset if I don't say it the way that fills your cup of tea. You're right in terms of we have to be a society that's open to our diversity as a community. Okay. But the percentile of trans athletes in sports on either side and in the middle, however one looks at that, is such a minuscule percentage that we probably need to revisit, not Dems, the country needs to revisit how impactful that has been. Now, in terms of harming the sport or sports. And the data would say that that's not the case. Now, I can't answer in its entirety all of the data because I don't have it in front of me. But what I will say is that's an area where I don't think we were a bridge too far in that space. Now, how much it got talked about on the right is a different story. And frankly, the lies that the right told were actually, they put more light on that than we did. The right put a lot of light on that, Mary. They made a bigger issue out of it than it actually is. We didn't. We embraced it as part of who we are as a community. The right turned it into an item that was happening in every single community. Donald Trump went into a black Hispanic barbershop and lied about you send your children off to school, your sons off to school, and they come back girls. That was a flat out lie, and you and I know it. And the right got away with it, and the media let him get away with it. And I was hugely disappointed to see black men and Hispanic men in that barbershop nodding their heads like they agreed that actually would happen. That was absolutely insane. Nobody in that barbershop had the guts to stand up and say, Donald Trump, you're a damn lie. That doesn't happen. That would have gotten the coverage it needed. So when we talk about the trans community and the trans issue, if you will, I say that in air quotes, there's a lot of lies and misinformation out there, and I don't think we leaned in too much to that. The right made it the right is who really leaned into it, not the Dems. Now, regarding woke, I would rather be awake and aware on every single issue. Let me put it to you this way, as you being a woman, I'm highly woke on issues that are going to be harmful to women. Why would I not be? Why would I not want to highlight the importance of the mistreatment of women, by men, particularly those who've been on the right? You see the number of white men, politicians and pastors and others that have been recently caught for causing harm to young girls? Why would I want to live in a society that doesn't talk to that, that's not awake to that? So I say that as a statement, but I also say it as a question. Why would I not want that to be something critically important that we talk about?
Sir, I am a woman. I'm the only female driver at my terminal. As a woman Teamster, I still have to work harder, better, and faster. And they keep throwing curveballs at me, and I keep ducking them. Because I don't let no man keep me down in the industry ever.
But see, here's what I'm saying, Mary, as an ally, and I don't mean, I apologize, I wasn't trying to cut you off. As an ally of yours, as an ally, I'm fighting that same fight with you. I'm fighting it as a black man, but I'm fighting it with you as a black man that understands that you shouldn't have to duck and dodge by a bunch of guys, whether they be black men, white men, Hispanic men, whatever. I'm saying, as a woke black man, I'm going to fight that fight with you, so that you don't have to work as hard or harder or 3 times as harder as guys who might be mediocre to your skill set. Why would I want to not be woke to that, Mary? Help me understand why I would not want. Let me put it to you this way. Would you rather have a bunch of woke men who support you, uplift you, protect you, are partners with you, or a bunch of unwoke men that make it harder for you to work? Pick one side or the other. Which one?
But see,
no. Answer, Mary, respectfully, that's a simple question. Who would you rather have? 20 guys who are woke, that are strong, that are supportive of you, that embrace with you, that have your back, or 20 guys that are throwing garbage at you to make your work harder? Which side do you want to be on?
Of course I'm going to be on the woke side, but you have to understand. Right, but see, and you just clarified my point. All I'm saying is that a lot of people in the country that didn't vote, and I am an independent, I vote Democratic, and I'm also a poll worker. I work to polls all the elections. It's just, we got to come to some agreement. We can be woke, but we also have to understand the other side that's not woke.
No, they got to understand
together.
Mary, they got to understand us. Let's call a timeout respectfully. We've got to stop yielding territory and space. They have got to understand us. Our ideas are better. You mean to tell me, by your own words, your idea is better. Your idea is of how you want to be in this world is better than those that are opposition to you. Why would you yield space to them so that you can give room to them to like you or like you better or work with you better? Make them come to you. And to that end, I want to ask you a question. In all fairness, what is your, not anybody else's, your definition of woke?
My definition of woke? I guess I really don't have a definition. I mean,
so how can you
so
how can you criticize? We've got to stop being that if you don't have a definition of it.
Sorry, and that's my point. I wasn't criticizing. I was just trying to have an open conversation with you.
Well, we are, we are, but that's what happens with me.
I wasn't being critical of anything. I was just pointing out my opinion, my views, and that I also watched the Bill Maher show and I saw Gavin Newsom, and I kind of agree with them.
Okay.
We got to be more center.
So think of it like
we used to be that way.
No, we didn't, Mary. I've been around long enough chronologically to tell you that we used to represent some centeredness, but we didn't represent giving up territory. And let me give you an example of what I mean by when I asked you the definition of woke. This is what's happened. A lot of people have heard that word and then they've gone with what the definition is. That's why I asked you what is your definition. They've gone with what's been defined to them by other sources, i.e. the right-wing media and in some cases the center media, and then water cooler talk, what woke is. I'm tired of these woke people, okay? Mary, let me help you understand this. In this environment, being woke means making sure that Mary, who is a great citizen, a great truck driver, a hard worker, a person that doesn't have to deal with that garbage that you discussed about having to work harder. That's what being woke is all about. It's protecting your ability, your right to be in a space where you don't have to fight like that all the time. That's part of being woke, is having people around that understand that. And I get where Gavin Newsom is trying to be, which is to draw a more center-esque crowd. But the ironic part about it is his state's not a center state. It's a more left-leaning state. On a national level, I know a lot of people say California politics shouldn't be the nation's politics. But let's be honest, Mary, do you want to spend the rest of your life and have your children and your nieces and frankly your nephews having to fight like you do at work? Because we decided to say, well, let's yield some territory to the other side so that they like us. I don't think that's a way for us to go forward. I think our better way. And I hear you, Mary. I hear your frustration, and I know I'm doing the majority of the talking. I apologize for that. But I want you to, I would hope that you, I don't say I want you to, I would hope that you would recognize that moving to the middle isn't necessarily where the country is. Where the country is pulling more people from being out of the mix and not participating in the process. That's where, as a Democratic Party, we lost so much ground. We didn't lose them to the crazies on the right that want to cause harm to you. We didn't. That's not my opinion. That's fact. So, I don't know if this has solved anything for you or made you more frustrated at all, or maybe enlightened, but I hope it has helped in some way to
absolutely. I mean, of course it helped. I mean, it's like I went to the Democratic office over in Wheaton to get some signs for my yard, and a lady was saying something. I go, oh yeah. I said white trash neighbors, right? Well, white trash renters that live next door to us think they're entitled to 8 inches of easement on the side of our house or whatever. I'm not going to get out of all that. And then this lady goes, well, I'm a renter. I'm not white trash. I said, see, and that's the problem. I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about the people that live next door to me are white trash. Do you see where I'm going?
I do, and I'm careful to name call, but I get your point. Don't get me wrong, Mary. Listen. I get your point, so I'm going to be respectful to your experience, Mary. Listen, you got to call back because This is what I'm going to offer to you. I'm going to offer you a voice that will help you feel better about the work that you do and your little bit of wokeness. Because, Mary, you're a lot more woke than you want to give yourself credit for.
Well, I got to keep my eyes on the road. I'm almost to Macomb Walmart, about 3 miles away. But, this isn't the first time I called the show. Brett Stubbs says, another 710 Teamster UPS driver, which that's where my wonderful husband works, at UPS at a catch in Hotchkiss, Illinois, told me about your radio, and I just texted Brett, hey, I'm on WCPT. I'm on WCPT. And no, I didn't text while I was driving. I was at a stop sign.
All right. Well, Mary, listen, I'm going to say a couple things to wrap up because we missed the segment, but it's more important that we talk with you. One, thank you. I put this in the way that I hope people will appreciate. We appreciate your service out there on the road doing what you do. We know it's not easy. And we also appreciate you passing on our station to other folks to listen to. But at the end of the day, Mary, we have to be in each other's corner in this space. And I'm in the corner of folks like you who are out there working it hard like you do, that working class mindset. And stay in the fight because we're going to be here with you. I promise you that much. And okay, you're now inside of 3 miles, so it's time to kind of start gearing down because I know you got to get off that exit and you got to navigate that appropriately.
What do you call it? When I talk to Miss Esposito, I'm like, I mute my thing so she doesn't hear me up lower in the lift gate or moving a pallet jack around or anything. But 60 hours is the new 40, and I don't think a lot of people, labor movement, realize that. In order to make $1,700 a week, you got to work 72 hours a week.
Yeah. Well, Mary, stay in the fight. We got you. And make sure to call us back, and we definitely will hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye now. Well, there you go. Mary, definitely as a supporter, she's like many people trying to figure it out. And that's what I hope that we're all trying to do here. And then I hope also that Mary can take away the fact that I understand. Let me put it this way. I understand what she's saying. And this all started with my conversation about Gavin Newsom being on Bill Maher. And I don't think we need to move to the center. I don't at all. I think we need to hold our ground and grow our base. Because this is what happens. If we move to the center, we end up leaving people behind that aren't going to move to the center because they believe. I'll give you an example. Do you think that a politician, a person that's been in the mix as long as someone like Bernie or David Jolly or Lauren are going to move to the center? No. Representative Underwood said we need to pull them this direction, those that are other elected officials. Simultaneously, I believe we need to pull people who did not participate. I hope that I'm right about that. I believe I am. And the data seems to back it up. The people on the left are telling us, left, center, left, don't move, because if you move, we're done. The people on the right are saying, hey, it's nice and sweet over here. Give up some more territory. Don't be woke. That's what they're trying to do, y'all. I'm telling you. Maybe some folks don't believe me, don't hear me, but that's not about being woke. That's not about, quote, over-highlighting trans issues. That is about standing your ground and believing in your beliefs and yelling them loudly. So, Devin, we'll hold on. We'll just all right. Let's grab a quick call from Naomi. Naomi out in Santa Monica, California. Good morning, Naomi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I really enjoyed hearing Mary. I really liked her. And I looked up woke on my cell phone, and it arose in around the 1930s in the African American English to define social injustices that the African Americans were experiencing. So I thought that would be helpful.
Yeah, in terms of a definition. And it's grown, if you will. It's been more defined. I don't want to say better defined, but in its simplest definition and most simple definition, yeah, it's being aware and paying attention to things that are happening that are not only perceived as, but actual injustices to any person. And it can be abuses of power. I mean, this is the thing that I have to that I want white men to understand. And nobody, again, get your undies in a bundle on this. White men who are, let's call a middle class union working person, they need to be woke to the fact that there are white men who are creating legislation or presenting legislation and creating laws that are harmful to you. So being woke about that has nothing necessarily to do with race. It has to do with an abuse of power. So sometimes I have to break things down that way and say, wait a minute, woke doesn't all. People go, oh, woke is about black folks telling white folks what to do. No, it's about a structure or an entity misusing their power to harm others, i.e. injustice or misjustice. And that can be perpetrated by white men onto other white men. So maybe I'm being over literal there, but I want to highlight that woke is about making sure that people are plugged in, generally speaking, to anything that's going to be. Right. Is that a fair way of putting it, Naomi?
Yes, and then it also explains why the right doesn't want us to be woke. They want us to sleep so they can trample all over us. But speaking of woke, I just woke up this today. I have to say, I guess I was asleep for a few months, and I called and I registered to help the phone banking for the judge in Wisconsin.
Miss Crawford, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
look at you. I forgot to say something about that earlier. Thank you for reminding us, Naomi.
And it just makes me crazy because I wish I could call for everybody, but I'm hoping that a lot of people will also register. There's still time to register for the Florida elections.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do the Crawford.
Let me give you a tip in that where you said I want to be able to make calls for everybody. This is what you do. No, seriously. So you manage your resource of energy and time. Pick 10, pick 5. Anywhere, any elections that are going on. It could be a state election. It could be a federal, whatever it is. Just take some time with a cup of coffee and say what elections are going on where there are progressives, Democrats running, and just it'll pop up. Or you can go to Act Blue. That's another place that you can go. And I'm sure I'll get some assistance from the wonderful folks that listen to this show. But just start there, and then pick 5 that you like. Okay. In 2025, I'm going to help these folks out by phone banking that might be across the country. And you're obviously in Santa Monica, and this election in Wisconsin is in Wisconsin. That way you can manage your energy a little bit better and don't feel like, God, I'm not doing enough because I'm not doing everything. Just pick a few that you can work with and be dedicated to being behind. Does that make sense, Naomi?
Yeah, and I'm glad I'm woke and I'm awake.
All right, I'm glad to hear.
I hope everybody becomes awake. That's the only way. That's the only way we make progress. And by the way, most of the progress we've made socially in this country or in civil rights is because of the African Americans.
Well, we all appreciate that. We all appreciate that.
That's how I feel anyway. You guys, you guys have been so oppressed. You know all about how injustice works.
Yeah. Naomi, thank you for being with us this morning. We got to go to this quick break, but thanks for your call and thanks for your thoughts and your hard work. And I'm sure Judge Crawford will appreciate your work as well. So have a great day, Naomi.
Richard, and thank you, Mary. Have fun, Mary, today.
All right. Be well, dear. Take care.
Right.
All right, guys, let's hit this mid-break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with another couple of fighters this morning, folks over at Let Us Be Us. This is 773-763-9278. Choose Views. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Didn't get a chance to cover this in the previous half hour because we were obviously pretty involved with our callers. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Obviously, we always have great articles there and great clips on X. So it's a good opportunity, as I've said so many times, to get there and talk about, to see what we're talking about, particularly the Democrats winning 2 special elections in Pennsylvania, flipping a district that Trump won easily back in November. Also things that are happening in Pennsylvania. So make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. We'll probably have some clips for you guys tomorrow. Deep breath, because we definitely have we have concerned folks in our community, and that's how I want to put that. Let's embrace our concerned folks to help them down this crazy path that we're on as best we possibly can. And so kudos to both Mary, who's driving and hopefully made it to her next destination, and to Naomi for her observations coming from Southern California. So we appreciate you both. Part of our responsibility is to take care of our children, whether we have children or not. It's always good to be an uncle, an aunt, Some people say aunt, but whether you say aunt or aunt, it's good to be an uncle or an aunt. It's good to, so that if we're looking out for our nieces and nephews and our children, that's one of our primary responsibilities as adults and even as young adults. In that process, though, what comes with that is our adoption services and our adoption agencies throughout the country. And right here in Illinois, we have two tough, phenomenal women who are getting the work done here in Chicago with the organization Let It Be, not here in Chicago, here in the Midwest and partly in Chicago. I've got to say that the right way. It's part of how we navigate this space. It's the largest nonprofit in Illinois providing collaborative, innovative solutions. That would be none other than Casey Coles and Dr. Susan McConnell, who are really, frankly, some of the strongest leaders as an executive director and board of director and board member of Let It Be Us. So, ladies, welcome to the show this morning. I didn't want to botch your introduction, but I've been talking a lot this morning, so welcome to Choose Views.
Thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you both. Well, a lot of people don't know about Let It Be Us. And as I was saying about the importance of our foster care and adoption agency networks throughout the country, you guys are leading the charge right here in Illinois and making sure that organizations like Let It Be Us are recognized and have the support to continue to do the work to make sure that our foster care systems and DCFS is doing the work in an effective manner. So if you could, tell us a little bit about each of you, and maybe we'll start with Dr. McConnell, about your background, your work, and then we'll hand off the baton to Casey.
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you for having us. I'm an adoptive parent, and I have a deep background in recruitment and in adoption. And so at this point with Let It Be Us, we're partnering with DCFS. We work, yes, in Chicago, but also statewide to manage the foster care adoptions. Illinois ranks very, very low throughout the whole country in foster care adoptions, and so we're here to change that. We do bring collaboration. We're willing to work with all families and all agencies, and we do bring innovation. So we have all different kinds of ways to work, and we hope to make some big improvements.
Casey, tell us a little bit about you and your mission in this great work that you're doing.
Thank you for having me also. I am a mom of three, not an adoptive parent, but began volunteering with Let It Be Us years ago. And over time, just became more involved with the mission. And I'm a former teacher, so most things I do relate back to children. And so now I sit on the board, on the fundraising committee, and also am the chair of the Ladies Leadership Luncheon.
The Ladies Leadership Luncheon, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. So for both of you, and that jump in as you see necessary. In Illinois, why are the numbers so low in terms of placement rates?
Well, that is a really, really good question. There is no reason that the rates are low. We have enough families who want to adopt, and we certainly have enough children that need to be adopted. We're working with the states right around us, working very closely with the state of Michigan to follow their models. And so this is a growth opportunity for us, and it's a chance to make a difference. We needed champions, Let It Be Us, or Illinois. And so we're here now. DCFS has a new director. She started exactly a year ago. And so things are changing. We have this partnership. And so these are wonderful opportunities for family building.
Casey.
Adoption from foster care, I just have to add, it doesn't cost anything. There's no cost here. And you have Let It Be Us to walk families through the entire process.
Got it. Casey, what are your thoughts there in terms of why the numbers, or why is Illinois so doggone low, given the state that we are in and what we try to represent?
A lot of the reasons Susan mentioned previously, I think just lack of awareness that you can adopt through foster care and what that looks like. So Let It Be Us is trying to, bring awareness to that, and that foster care is a great option if you're trying to build a family. Also, I think there's just been a little bit the innovation part of this whole system. Let It Be Us is really trying to use technology to match children with families effectively and efficiently, and put them in the right homes the first time. And they do a great job of that. So hopefully we can move in that direction, using a little bit more innovative solutions to solving these problems.
You mentioned innovation a couple times, so help us understand what that means and how it would. What does innovation mean, and how is the implementation of better innovation going to help in this space?
We have worked so hard to develop our own proprietary, unique database of licensed foster homes, families that have a foster care license. We have over 1,000. We have all of their data. So when a caseworker comes to us and they say, I need an adoptive family for this child, we use that database, and then we also use these geo-targeted extensive search tools that we have to go out and find a number of families that we can refer for that child. This is the first time it's being done in Illinois to this degree.
So with regard to the innovation, and is it costly to have those tools in place? What are sort of the requirements for you to have a better and a more innovative system?
Well, some of it is expensive. Some of it isn't expensive. We are required to be because we're a nonprofit, we're very efficient with our funds. But yes, it takes money to develop these databases. It takes money to run these databases. It takes money to hire people to do the matching. We do have a grant from the state, but the more money that we can get the more involvement we can get from corporations, large and small, the more work we could do, the more kids we can get adopted.
So speaking of that, and Casey, I know that you may want to chime in on this question regarding funding. Yes, the recent grant that did come is obviously going to be tremendously helpful. But let's talk about that in terms of contributions, whether they're coming from corporations, whether they're coming from government entities. What are you guys feeling now with some of the federal adjustments, if you will, cuts, if you will, whether they be certainly not coming through Congress, but certainly coming as executive order-esque movements? How is that impacting you guys in the work that you're doing?
You want me to answer that, Casey?
You can start if you'd like, and then I can chime in with my opinion.
You go ahead.
Casey, you're on the hot spot. You got to take that one first.
Yeah, that was a tough question. I don't know that we've directly seen that impact us yet, and hopefully it won't. We do have, governmental contracts, but I think, and we work collaboratively with other organizations that also have government contracts, but I think we are, a lot of our funding comes from personal donations and family foundations, and we haven't seen an impact there yet, though we are really, really working hard to get some corporate sponsorships to support the work that we're doing. And we have struggled in that arena. So I will say that.
Yes, Dr. Susan.
I would say the grant we get from DCFS gets us started. We definitely need the corporate sponsorships to continue to grow. We have grassroots donors, we have family foundations, but we need those corporate sponsorships, large and small, and this is their chance to come in and really have an impact.
Got it. So here's a question that when you said earlier about Illinois, well, we've talked about this in terms of Illinois' ranking, and Michigan is a state that you acknowledge, Dr. McConnell. What are other states that are in the top 10? What are some of the things that they're doing or that you've learned that they're doing to reduce, or I should say increase their placement rate and reduce that deficit?
They're further than us in innovation. So we're using them as a model, and then we're taking it steps further. We have some legislation that ties an arm behind our back. We're working with the new director to change that. We are making families aware. I think in Illinois there just hasn't been enough awareness, and families have taken to going to other states around us to adopt from foster care without knowing they can get that. They can build their families in Illinois. So awareness is a big part too.
Okay.
I would add, I think, just really quickly, we need a little bit of a shift in the mindset, I think, and that's a little bit a part of that awareness that Susan is talking about, and is why we have some events, a lot of events throughout the year to educate prospective foster parents about, how to actually go about that, and so they can stay within Illinois to adopt the children that are here already.
Does DCFS need more staffing to help in this process? Is that part of the challenge in terms of awareness, or how does that awareness take hold?
It's really with the families, getting them to know that the children are here and that this is an opportunity. So that's one thing. The staffing is not an issue for us on DCFS because we're here to help them. We're a support to them. So they can lean on us to help get these kids adopted. So we're here as a support to that staff.
And it seems as though Governor Pritzker has really, with regard to some of the legislation that he signed, I think it called KIND, or do I have that right?
Yes,
that's correct.
And so tell us how that has impacted this challenge.
Well, the KIND Act will help children stay home if they can stay home, but it will also identify children that need to be adopted faster. So what the goal is to not have kids grow up in foster care. Foster care is supposed to be temporary. It is not supposed to be a childhood. So if that child can return home, that's awesome. And if they are not able to, then let's provide a second family for them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've been saying, obviously, we lean left progressive in this conversation that we have on my show and certainly our station. But the goal in that space is to always make sure we're inclusive and bringing more people into the conversation. And in this space, Illinois has done by contrast to the ranking of placement, the state legislatures have done what seemed to be a pretty good job, certainly in the governor's mansion, of furthering the work that you all are trying to do. I would ask you this question, not to put either of you on the spot. What experiences have you had with state legislators when it comes to the conversation around adoption, around building families, around, frankly, DCFS here in the state of Illinois?
We have had amazing success with the legislators. Their doors are open, and we're having this ladies' leadership luncheon, and Senator Sarah Feigenholz is speaking. Casey, why don't you speak to that?
Sure. I think we've had great success and support from state senators from Illinois, at least. Senator Mary Edley Allen spoke at our last ladies' leadership luncheon. And as Susan just mentioned, Senator Sarah Feigenholz is also going to speak at the one we're having in a couple of weeks. And they are more than willing to be participants. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, Susan, is Senator Mary Edley Allen participating in the adoption symposium coming up?
Yeah,
right. So they are champions of Let It Be Us and child welfare in itself. So we haven't had a lot of pushback. I think we have a lot of support. I think Governor Pritzker also has been super supportive of improving the foster care system. And I think, like I mentioned, the change of mindset, I think with that support and sort of just changing the way we do it, I think will make a huge impact. I think that is what Susan's, the innovation and the technology and that proprietary database sort of is changing the way we place children, right? And we need maybe a little help in getting rid of some of that legislation that makes it more difficult. But I think there's a lack of awareness how that legislation makes it more difficult. And so that's another part of the puzzle. But circling back to that ladies' leadership luncheon, that's sort of what we're doing with these luncheons is bringing, women leaders from the state of Illinois together to sort of educate them and create some awareness on how we can improve child welfare system in the state of Illinois. And we've had lots of luck with lots of, women leaders coming and participating in those luncheons. So to answer your question, I think we're having we get a lot of support in that way.
Let's talk about the luncheon for a little bit as we wrap up. That's going to be on April 15th, correct? Tax Day.
Correct.
So you've
Tuesday,
got
April 15th, yeah.
Tuesday, April 15th, and that's going to be at the It's a ladies leadership luncheon, and it's going to be at the Union League Club. Tell us a little bit about that time and what folks can how do folks attend if they want to or be involved. If you can help our listeners who are interested in the event and more broadly interested in Let It Be Us.
So you can find ticket information and sponsorship opportunities at letitbeus.org, and you can learn about Let It Be Us generally at that website. But the event will be on Tuesday, April 15th at the Union League Club of Chicago from 11:30 to 1:30. Basically, the afternoon will be a little bit of education, some inspiration, and networking with other women leaders in Illinois who are looking to make a difference. We'll have a full lunch, sit-down lunch with an open bar, and it'll be a great afternoon to sort of sit with like-minded women. We have 3 amazing speakers. Actually, we have a total of 5, but we have Senator Sharon Feingold, like we mentioned. Susan, Dr. McConnell will speak and talk about Let It Be Us and what we do. And then we have 3 women who are going to talk about their lived experiences in foster care and aging out of the foster care system, because that's one of the things we haven't talked about yet on the call. But when children age out of the foster care system, they sort of are left, to their own devices. And so the goal would be to find them a family prior to them aging out. So And this luncheon will focus on girls and what the traditional outcomes are for girls that stay in the foster care system and what impact adopting them out of the foster care system can have on their lives. So that is the theme of the luncheon. But again, yes, please visit letitbeus.org for tickets or information. And that's on April 15th, 11:30 to 1:30.
So can dudes like me show up and attend?
Absolutely.
Yes, more
Please
than
do.
welcome.
Yes.
Well, I say that not overcommitting myself, but I make sure to keep certain things on my calendar if I can lend my voice and be a live supporter in addition to the show. I like to try to be a part of these wonderful events. Dr. McConnell, take us home. Let us know how folks can find us again and just sort of your last thoughts about Let It Be Us today.
Yeah, so as an adoptive parent, this is a way to build your family. A lot of people are interested in adoption. They should come to us and include this in their search. Letitbeus.org. We have many, many events. We have live events. We have webinars. We have Zoom events. We have people that you can talk to. We have excellent customer service. This is a place to come and build your family and to learn about adoption from foster care. You don't need to go to another state. You can get all of this done right in Illinois.
That's great to hear. Wonderful to have Casey Coles and Dr. Susan McConnell of Let It Be Us, board director and, of course, executive director of the organization. Thank you both so much for being with us. Thank you for your hard work, and I will do my best to try to make my way there on the 15th. So thank you for having it. Thank you for being with us today.
We hope you'll come, and we'll save you a seat.
Please do.
I'll search you out and make sure that I introduce myself and try to sit down and learn some things. So appreciate you both being with us this morning.
Okay, thank you so much.
Great. Have a great day.
I will. Me too. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we will be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Great to have folks from Let It Be Us on the show this morning and talking about the importance of effective, innovative adoption care inside of our foster care system. And I appreciate both Casey Collins and Dr. McConnell being with us. And if you can make it to the event, guys, check it out. I'm going to try to make my way over there on the 15th. And, I said as part of the opening, I said something that's near and dear to me, and it's being a good uncle. Don't have children of my own. We don't have children of our own, but we have some great nieces and nephews, and we have great young folks in our family and friends. When I say that, I mean our extended family of friends and their children. And so I have always taken it as a badge of honor and responsibility to be as good of an uncle as I can to those who are our nieces and nephews, bloodline and friendship line. Those children, what popped into my mind, Devin, is a song, I believe the children are the future. And that where this is important in our conversation right now is, our children are looking at what we're doing. Our young folks are looking at, minors particularly, they're looking at what we're doing in this crazy environment that we're in right now. And, candidly, I think we all have to do a little bit better job of giving them something to aspire to and to be hopeful for our future, irrespective of the economics, irrespective of the neighborhood or the zip code. I think that's where we all have to do a better job. They're looking at us. We know that. And, our greatest joy should be that we're setting an example to make things better for their lives. So when we talk about, being woke, I want us to be aware and woke because it's about making sure, and I always hear people say we want to, make sure that our children's future is brighter and for the next generation. Well, the next generation is now. It's not something down the road. It's right now because we have children right now who are young folks, preteen, teen, that are trying to figure out what the heck to do, how to navigate. So that's the reason, just so you guys know, that I made the comment in the intro that I did about no matter where the children are aspiring from, they're aspiring to something, and making sure that we have a stout foster care system and adoption care system is important. And as is our general health care and our general health concerns, and making sure that community health programs are strong and stout, because a lot of times that's the only outlet for so many people. And what we've been fortunate enough to have in the state of Illinois is some fairly strong community organizations, and particularly in the health care arena. One of our state representatives from the 43rd District is Anna Moeller, who has been a champion, a serious champion in that space. And we have her. We're fortunate to have her with us this morning. Welcome, Representative, to Choose Views.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Richard.
Absolutely.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice. I'm glad you're with us. And, before you came on, if you heard, we had Casey and Dr. McConnell on talking about our foster care system, and they gave some shout outs to our state legislators. I asked that question. We know that there's some federal challenges that any of our state organizations are going to have. They spoke about it from a state's perspective as well. But you have been, and take a moment and kind of introduce yourself, talk about your district, and you've got a pretty big geographical district, but you've been really, really, really a champion in the community healthcare space, and particularly when it comes to pharmaceuticals and medications and treatment. But tell us a little bit about, your district, and then we'll pivot and talk a little bit about some of the things that you're currently working on.
Sure. So I represent the 43rd District, as you mentioned. Most of my district is the city of Elgin. I also have parts of Carpentersville, Hoffman Estates, and Streamwood. So I have a very diverse district, very working class, great people, and I have a number of community health centers, federally qualified health centers. We're blessed to have them in our community. We have 3 that serve thousands of people here, and they're very important. And so this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. Everyone should have access to health care. I believe it's a human right, and so whatever I can do to help support that system, I'm here to do that.
Absolutely, and that's great to hear, Representative. I have when you talk about diversity, or you didn't say diversity, you said very diverse district. Define that. Tell us what that looks like. Tell us what that means to you, what you see, what the participation is. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I have a large Hispanic community in the 43rd District. I also have a substantial South Asian community, and African American, Asian, white. It's wonderful. My husband and I moved to this area back in the late 90s because we wanted to live in an area that had diversity and cultural richness. And that's exactly what Elgin and the 43rd District is. We have, people from all walks of life and from all over the world. It's a large immigrant population, and it's I think it's the best district in the state because of that.
Well,
I really do.
I know, and you should say that even believing it and knowing it, and making sure that your other colleagues, in terms of representatives, they got to prove you wrong. How about that? They got to prove you wrong.
That's right.
So deep into the pool in terms of what you're working on right now with this Illinois Primary Health Care Association, and what are your concerns, but also what are your opportunities and upside with regard to where you are in that space?
Yeah. So the bill that we are advancing or trying to advance in Illinois protects the 340B program. The 340B program is a federal program that was created over 30 years ago to help support our local community health centers and rural hospitals and safety net hospitals. So it's a program that's been put into place to help healthcare providers who serve the uninsured, underinsured, low-income families, and it's been very successful for the past 30 years. Unfortunately, in the near recent past, pharmaceutical companies have put their own restrictions on this program, which has made it difficult for our federally qualified health centers and for our safety net hospitals to use this program. And essentially what this does is it's a program that passes on discounted rates for medications to low-income patients. And for expensive drugs, they get the drugs at a lower cost through this program. It also provides additional revenue for FQHCs and hospitals when they have patients who can afford to pay market rate drugs. They pay a little bit more, and the difference goes to the FQHC or the rural or the safety net hospital to help them fund programs and services and care for this underinsured, non-insured population. Because of these restrictions that pharmaceutical companies have placed on these hospitals and community health centers, they're restricting the places that patients can go to have their medications dispensed. So they'll create a rule that says, this hospital can only provide medications to their patients at one pharmacy in their, geographic area, or the FQHC can only provide their medications to one pharmacy in their geographic area. And this is a big burden on patients because they can only access their medications in one location, and they may not live close to the pharmacy that the pharmaceutical company is requiring, or that pharmacy might not dispense the medication that they need. So this bill would get rid of, it would ban those types of restrictions that the pharmaceutical companies are putting on this program. Other states have done this, and they've been successful. It's been challenged in court, and those bills and laws have been upheld in court. So we think that we can do this here in Illinois to make sure that patients have access to their medications, and that our community health centers and our safety net hospitals have the support that they need to continue to provide health care to these patients.
It seems pretty simple to me. Maybe I'm I'm being a little sarcastic here. If you heard earlier parts of our show, maybe I'm a little bit too woke, but it seems pretty simple to me that this is something that we should be able to get done. But I have a couple of questions. Well, how do PMBs affect this? Not so much the legislation, but affect the process here. Help us out in that space.
The PBMs.
PBMs. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So PBMs are not. PBMs are the middleman organizations between the pharmaceutical companies and the pharmacies, and they operate for all programs, whether you're in a fully insured program, whether you're in Medicaid or Medicare, or even through the 340B program. they, operate as the broker between the pharmaceutical company and the pharmacies. This bill doesn't do anything to either give them more power or to regulate them, or further regulate them. There is a bill that's been introduced in the House and Senate that would regulate PBMs to make sure that they're not, taking excessive profit in the role that they play. But this bill doesn't do anything to either give them additional authority or regulate them.
Okay, got it. It popped into my mind, and I thought I definitely want to ask you a question about that. So let's talk about rural. A couple of times you talked about safety net facilities. Mm-hmm. Again, this seems like it's a layup that we should be making sure that our urban, suburban, and rural medical facilities are stout, and I know that it may be somewhat aspirational. I don't want people to think that I'm looking at this with rose-tinted glasses, but it seems as though this is the type of legislation that is beyond necessary and should be a layup because of the fact that it's about caring for folks and making sure that people have access. And federally, if there's cuts, it's putting more strain on states and then organizations.
Right.
And these community healthcare centers. What are you, in addition to this bill, trying to do to prepare for this unfortunate rainfall that's coming from the federal level?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's something that I'm very concerned about. Everyone should be very concerned about. As you know, Republicans in the U.S. House passed a resolution several weeks ago that would cut $880 billion out of the budget that is concerned with the Medicaid program, and we're worried that is going to be something that's going to advance. Trump and the Republicans in Congress want to pass $1 trillion tax cut for the wealthiest people in our country, and they can't do that without either raising taxes on everyone else, which could end up being something that happens, or gutting the federal budget, and you really can't cut enough without to pay for that $1 trillion tax cut without getting into Medicaid, Medicare, and the health programs that people rely on. And we held a hearing a couple weeks ago in my Human Services Appropriations Committee to hear from the hospitals and to hear from people who care for the people with disabilities and seniors in our communities. And it would be absolutely devastating. The state of Illinois, we don't have enough to cover the cuts that could be coming from the federal government. We don't have enough in our budget to cover that loss. And unfortunately, what would happen is people would lose access to health care. We have 770,000 people in Illinois who have health insurance because of the expansion under the Affordable Care Act, and we have a trigger law on our books that specify that if we lose that 90% match from the federal government for this Medicaid expansion, which is what we're assuming is going to happen if they move forward with their big cuts, that 770,000 people lose access to health insurance. And, so they'll have to end up going back to the emergency room, like when when they're in crisis, they'll lose access to preventative care, access to mental health and behavioral health care, and it'll be devastating. So we're working very hard to educate people and to reach out to our congressional delegation to make sure that these cuts don't happen, because there's nothing we can do at the state level to cover that huge gap that would come down with these cuts.
Yeah. So sobering as it is, and in the pool of reality as it is, that's what a lot of people don't, and they realize it topically, but not to the more granular level that you just presented it, which is important. And I want more and more people to dig in and understand that literal, local, whether it be rural, whether it be suburban, or whether it be urban, impact is real. and that's why we appreciate your alliance with your federal legislators to make sure that they stand strong in that space. I have to ask you this question. It's not meant to be a partisan question. It's just really more kind of a numerical, because I want our listeners to have a little bit better understanding. So one of the conversations that's taken place since this national election, Representative Mueller, is that we have people who are going, that's not what I voted for. And I know that topically we're talking about community healthcare systems, but frankly, because of what you just enlightened us on, a lot of the people that are impacted by the losses of funding and the losses of support for medications and such through community healthcare centers are going to be are going to be impacted by this. And even in your district, I don't know what your numbers are specifically. I know that you do. What are you hearing from people that may have voted for something that they thought was going to be different? In other words, you've seen the memes and all the points out there. This is, you messed around and you found out, and here's unfortunately where we are. Yeah. So I'm asking this question and talking this through with you, because I know people are curious. What is someone like you as a representative hearing from people in the state where you've got a little bit of diversity in your supporters?
I mean, people are outraged and they're scared, and they are, not sure what to do. I think some people who supported him, didn't really think that he would follow through with what he said he was going to do. He can be bombastic and over the top in his rhetoric, and I think a lot of people may have thought, this is all just rhetoric that he's using on the campaign trail. And he, and he never talked about gutting the federal workforce, during his campaign. He never talked about cutting funding for Medicaid and Medicare. So he lied. That's about a lot of these things that he's doing. And unfortunately,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Good.
No, and now unfortunately, things have changed, and I think people are rightfully upset and are worried that these are going to be some long-lasting changes that are going to harm our communities.
And when he did talk about it, or when it was brought up, he did flat out lie about it. He said, no, we'll never touch that. And versions of his normal way of getting around answering a question by, topic changing and all that.
Right.
So I love it. Thank you for saying those words. I'm not sure people caught when you said he didn't talk about it. He didn't talk about it as something when he was asked questions about it, he flat out lied. And that's great to hear an elected official not say, well, he kind of he mumbled his words, or he wasn't fully disclosing. No, he lied. Thank you, Representative Anna Mueller, for saying that. Folks want to hear our leaders on a state level and on a federal level say those words, not the kind, nice words. Because saying he lied versus he misspoke, they're miles apart. So I'm giving you a huge high five for saying it that way, because that is what happened.
Well, there's a lot at stake. And people need to understand what's happening. And I worry that, the level of anxiety right now is very high, and I don't want to create more anxiety, but people need to understand what's happening. And, so that we can prevent, take action and flip the House in 2026 and prevent the damage, as much damage as we can going forward.
Yeah, that's a very realistic way of looking at it. None of us want to create more concern of folks. We don't want to create any more of that anxiety. I love the way that you put that. At the same time, we have to make sure that we're keeping people aware and plugged in, because that would be a huge failure for us to say, well, we don't want to upset people. Kind of do want to upset folks if it means getting them off the sidelines and in the game. Is that a fair statement to make?
I think absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Absolutely.
Well, Representative Moeller, thank you for being with us this morning. You are a champion in this space, specifically when it comes to our Illinois primary health care work and community medical centers and healthcare centers. But more broadly, I think you've got your thumb on what's got to happen and how we've got to speak to folks to make sure that they're involved and they're aware of what's happening. What's on your, and we've come to the end of the first quarter. What's on your, your whiteboard for the second quarter of this year?
We're hoping to get this bill across the finish line. We're working with the different stakeholders, and it's going to be a process. But this 340B bill is a priority of mine, and just again, like making sure that we are to the level that we can supporting healthcare and access to healthcare in Illinois, and the programs that people need to thrive and survive. So. We're almost halfway through the legislative calendar, and when we go back next week, we'll start moving bills in the House and then start working on our budget. So there's a lot ahead, but I'm glad we're in Illinois. We have great leadership in Illinois. We have great people who care about other people and care about our communities here. And I just feel very honored and privileged to be able to do the work that I do in the Illinois House on behalf of the 43rd District.
And I agree with you. We have great leadership here and folks that are concerned, and you're one of those great leaders. So we applaud the work that you're doing and the fight that you've taken on, and appreciate you being with us this morning. How can folks who are, whether they're in your district or not, lend you some support, get involved, follow you?
They can. So I have an office here in downtown Elgin, and you can find my contact information at ilga.gov. I also have my own website, which is annamoeller.org. So easy way to get in touch.
Very good. Very good. Well, Representative Moeller, thanks for being with us this morning. We really appreciate you being with us. Appreciate your hard work, as I said.
Thank you so much, Richard.
And we look forward to having you back. We'll get with you as we pay attention to what's happening with this bill, okay?
I would love that. That would be great.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great week, and
so much.
we got you. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All
thanks.
Right.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, guys, she's plugged in. She understands the import of where we are and what we're doing, and I'm glad that we were able to talk with her this morning. This is an important bill because of the fact that when we talk about the national issues, and healthcare being one of them, and these idiots, absolute idiots, people think they're smart and successful businessmen and all that. They're good at layering and getting grants and getting tax abatements. That's what Trump and Musk have been good at, is layering, the tax abatements that they've gotten, and then layering the grants that they've gotten, and all these things that have helped. Because without the federal government, Elon Musk, the test company as it stands right now, would not exist. I'm not saying it wouldn't exist at all. So let's not give him too much praise, and let's not use language like he's the smartest guy on the planet. And, no, none of that is applicable. And Trump, we know who he is. So I love the fact that Representative Moeller said what he did. He lied. More of our representatives need to say those words, because we can't count on the mainstream media, quote unquote, to say he lied. They dance around it, and he misspoke. He wasn't completely informative, and all these other kind words so they don't lose access. Well, I'm going to be with Representative Moeller and say they lied. Trump lied. Vance lied. Keep on going down the list. The administration that he selected, in the cabinet, they've lied. Hell, members of the Supreme Court dodged the truth or lied to get on the Supreme Court. So I love it when someone like Representative Moeller, and kudos to her again, say it. He lied. Now, to the other side of what she said is we, don't want people to be freaked out more than people are already, anxious in their own right. We do want people to be plugged in and heads out of the sand, and be involved in this process. That's important, guys. I know I'm circling back to Mary from earlier in the show. Whatever is directing someone in their thoughts and their beliefs right now, we have to be willing to hear them, and this is important, we have to be willing to hear them and be willing to help them move forward. I believe that we have better ideas. Said it so many times. I'm in the camp with David Jolly in this space. We have better ideas. And we know that there's particulars that took place. And some say that there was tampering in this election. And some didn't smell right. And I'm not one to close my eyes and ears to that. Most definitely the data backs up that there was a huge amount of voter suppression. And particularly in key areas in the swing states. I'm down with all of that. Meaning that I hear that and I do my best to try to speak to that. At the same time, we have to, in that same space and at the same time, we have to call out, like Representative Mueller just did, the lies when they take place and the BS when it's upon us. That to me, that's the opportunity. That's what part of being woke is about, is recognizing that we have the right to call out the BS and to call out those lies when they hit us. And, I can't be more clear about that and can't be more proud about that. Tomorrow, we're going to have a couple of clips that we'll try to get to you guys early in the show that speak to representatives and to some union leaders, frankly, talking about not only the lies, but talking about how we have to fight and how we have to call out the incompetency. And I'm looking forward to having those for you tomorrow because they are relevant. And there's a clip that I want to play that's a clip that's got a lot of shelf life, and it's something from as we wrap up the show today. I think we can squeeze this one in from Jon Tester, talking about and I want to tie this to the point that Representative Mueller was making about the rural communities. Did we have time to get that one in? This is one from former Senator Jon Tester.
Look, I think the tariffs are a big one because we depend on export markets to market our grains and pulse crops for sure. I think what he has proposed to do with the Postal Service is an incredible nail in the coffin for rural America. I think if you take a look what he's done with the VA, 10% of the people who live in a rural state like Montana are veterans. And you can say you're not cutting benefits, but if you don't have the people in the VA to deliver those benefits, you have cut those benefits. And then if you take a look at what he's done to the Forest Service and the Park Service, the recreation economy and outdoor economy in Montana is worth about $6 or $7 billion a year. If that becomes screwed up, which it appears it's headed in that direction, it's going to have a major impact on the economy in the state. So I agree with you. I think that if you take a look at what he is doing, and he did this in the last term, pitting Democrats versus Republicans and liberals against conservatives, he's now doing it on the world stage. He's trying to pit America against everybody else except for China and Russia and North Korea and Iran. And that's a bunch of crap. And I can tell you that if this continues on and Democrats don't get a good message and don't push back, it's going to get pretty ugly for rural areas in this state and this country.
And there you go, guys. That's why it's important that we look at all of those communities. And that's what Representative was talking about, Representative Mueller. Thanks, guys, for being with us today. Number is always 773-763-9278. Take a deep breath. Make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.